Spotlight on Laurel, Her History and Her People, episode number 9, is brought to you by the video guy, Noah White, the Sentinel-Echo, KJ Music Radio Promotions. Why pay a promoter twice as much to promote your music just because they aren't local? And of course, FM98.5 WJTE, the Light of London. Today, we're so very pleased to have the lovely Mrs. Frances Wilhoit as our guest. And no one knows more about Laurel County than you, Frances, and its history and its people. I know of no one better to interview, and no one I'd rather interview than you. So,
thank you.
Frances, you and I, we've been friends a long time.
We have.
I like to begin these interviews by asking you to tell us about your family, beginning with your roots, and then we'll transition into how you've seen Laurel County change over the years.
Well, my father was Wilburn Prophet. My mother was Nora Powell. They come from Clay County, of course, Fogletown.
Okay.
And
there was a lot of migration at that time from Clay to Laurel. Yeah.
They moved over here about in the early 40s, 42,
okay.
Maybe.
Just after the Depression, or maybe, you know, on the cusp of the Depression. Yeah.
And Dad worked at a coal mine, Goods Coal Mine, L.S. Good.
Okay.
And
now, where was that located in Laurel County?
Slate Lake.
Okay.
And we lived on a little farm out on Shaney Ridge.
Yeah.
And when I was about 6, we moved to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Down at the mouth of Kentucky Holler.
Okay.
And we lived there until I graduated high school. Of course, in the meantime, my father passed away when I was 13. And my mother, when I graduated, moved to Corbin and bought a nursing home for rent out rooms.
Okay, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so you lost your father at an early age, a young age, 13 years old.
13 years old.
Yeah. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 1 brother and 3 sisters.
So obviously you all had to pick up some of the slack.
We did.
Yeah. So, and were you the oldest, the youngest, or sort of in the middle?
I was almost the youngest.
Okay.
There's 1 younger than me.
1 younger than you. Okay. Are they still alive?
Only the younger sister.
Okay.
The others are gone.
All right. So your father died at age 13, and I understand my family actually sang at his funeral. They sang at hundreds of them down through the years, and that's something I'm proud of.
They did.
Yes.
They were good.
And that would have been
1951.
Okay. So that would have been my grandfather, grandmother, and my great aunt and uncle then. Yeah, yeah. All right. So let's talk now about then you married Mr. Wilhoit. Yeah. And so how many children did you all have?
We have 2 sons.
Okay. All right. And their names are?
Roger, he flies the big 757 aircraft.
Okay, yes. I was familiar with that, but I want the viewers to...
And my youngest son, Tim, worked for the city until he got a back problem and had to retire.
Okay, all right. So is Roger does he still fly the planes, the big planes?
He does. He's a chief pilot down in Miami.
Wow, that's quite a responsibility.
Quite.
Yeah, and he's in Miami, so I'm sure you miss him.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, that's a great life, I guess. If you want to live that life, it's a good paying job,
but you're always gone.
You're always gone. Yeah, some folks are just cut out for that, and some aren't. You know.
He's lived in North Carolina for 28 years.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, but say he's in Miami is where his hub is now, right? Okay, all right. Well, so now tell me about you began your career. What got you into? Did you actually what made you want to be in real estate auction and your role in that? Who did you start working for at first?
I started working with Gene Evans.
Yeah.
He was my brother-in-law.
Okay, yeah, that's right. He was your brother-in-law. Yes, yes.
And I worked for him until he went with Ray in 1980, Ray Reams.
1980, Ray Reams.
So
yes.
I went along with him.
Yes, yes. Gene used to auctioneer at the stockyards.
He did.
He was the main auctioneer there, and
he was.
And then, my Uncle Sonny kind of came up under Gene's tutelage there. He taught him a lot of skills, and both of them, the two best auctioneers around.
They were.
You know,
they
yeah.
were.
So, but I can remember Gene as a young boy watching him auctioneer at the stockyards a lot. You know, and I always had he could auctioneer with a cigarette better than anybody I've ever seen.
He could.
But yeah, so you transit. So your work career started in the real estate, right?
Right.
And
Well, no, actually in banks.
okay, you were in banking first. Okay.
I started at a bank in Louisville before I turned 18. Moved back to London and started working with Second National, it was then.
Yeah.
And then to Begley Drug.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
then-
Second National became Cumberland Valley later on.
Right.
Yeah. So, but you started working in the banking. Were you a teller?
No, I worked in the bookkeeping.
Okay, bookkeeping. And then what you said, Begley Drug? Did you say?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I remember Begley Drug when it was on Main Street.
I run the fountain there
Ran the fountain.
for
Yeah.
about 16 years.
That's a good way to get to know a lot of people.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And when was that? Now in the 60s, 70s?
That was 60s.
Okay. All right. All right. And then I guess town started to change. The landscape started to change a little bit. Strip malls started to pop up, and moved some of the town people out, of the city limits with their businesses and so forth, or well, maybe still in the city limits, but out of downtown. And so, what made you decide you wanted to go to work in the real estate business then?
Well, I don't know. I just listened to all of them there at the drugstore, talking, and this was property and all that, and I thought, well, that sounds good to me. So actually, I was the first woman licensed.
Is that right? Yeah. And at that time, they did a lot of, that company did a lot of auctioneering of land. Yeah. Some companies specialize in that.
Yeah.
And that was the specialty of Gene. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. And you're a people person, so you enjoyed that, I'm sure.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Met a lot of people
Yeah.
that, you probably met a lot of people at the soda fountain too.
I did.
Yeah. Those were good days in downtown London. I can remember those days too.
They were.
After school we'd go to the fountain.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was nice times. So and then Ray Reams and Gene went in together.
In 1980.
Okay, that was 1980. Yeah. And you automatically just transitioned over.
Right.
And then later, Gene retired later, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so it was you and Mr. Reams, and you all were quite a team. You sold a lot of land, sold a lot of real estate.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
And, I don't think I've ever known anyone who's been more loyal to whomever they worked for than you,
I think we're supposed to.
We are supposed to.
Yeah.
But just because we're supposed to, don't mean we always are.
That's true.
But I think that definitely you have been a shining example of that.
Well, thank you.
I certainly believe that. But now Ray Reams, he was quite a character.
He was a man of his own.
Man of his own. Man of his own, man on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, man of his own. Tell us about some of your adventures with him and some of his escapades, because there were a lot of them, but things that come to mind.
Oh, right off, I can't think of any specifically. I really can't.
Yeah. Anyone who knew Ray, as you said, he was a very unique individual.
He was for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, Ray perished in, I don't know what year that was. Ray died. I remember that was news. It was a terrible accident. 1992.
It was around Thanksgiving.
Okay. I know that was a terrible, terrible accident.
Terrible.
Yeah. He got chewed up by a helicopter blade or a airplane blade?
His airplane. He tried to hand prop it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That was a terrible, I'll never forget hearing that news.
Right.
Sad news. So tell us now, were you already working in the broadcast industry at that time, or was that when? Okay. When did you start working in the? And did you start with Mr. Fork? That was your first. Okay.
I did. I come over here in July of '92.
Okay, July of '92.
July.
And when I speak of Mr. Fork, that's his broadcast business, which includes WFTG and WWAL and WANV here in London, Laurel County. He owns many more broadcast properties.
Many more.
So in what year was that, did you say?
92.
Okay, so that was the same year that Ray died, but you'd already came to work for Mr. Fork. So then your transition from that type of sales, okay, into this whole new type of sales and marketing now. You're, this is a new world for you. But how did your stint with Mr. Fork actually come about? And so that you've been in it almost 30 years now. Yeah. And how did that all come about?
I really didn't know him, but he had a friend of mine, Luke Keith, had recommended me to him.
Okay.
When he bought the radio station.
Okay.
So he contacted me, but then I was getting a little tired of the real estate business and all the legal things it enticed, and so I just decided, I believe I'll do this.
Well, good. Yeah, so he made a good sales pitch to you then.
He did.
He sold you on it.
He did. And he has been just a great person to work with.
I understand that's so. And he obviously places a lot of trust in you.
He does.
And that's a wonderful thing, because he actually, when you started working for him, of course, he was on the rise with his properties and things that he was buying. But now, what an entrepreneur.
Wise, very wise. He knows.
And to know that he places that kind of trust in you, that has to make you feel. That has to make you feel good, Francis.
Very good, very good.
It has to.
I wouldn't still be working if it wasn't for him. You know, I just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much different was that radio broadcast sales than the real estate? I mean,
not a whole lot. It all pertains to going out working with the people.
Yes.
And if you can do that, you can sell whatever you've got to sell if you can work with the people.
And obviously you know all about sales. You know how to close, all that. So, but because you've been very successful at that.
Hopefully.
Well, obviously you have. Obviously you have. So, and you say you wouldn't still be working. I see no signs of you slowing down, Francis.
No, I'm 80 now, so.
You're 80 years old. I hate to ask a lady that, but you don't mind saying.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you sure don't look it or act it.
Well, I've been blessed. I have.
Yeah. So 80 years old, you've seen a lot of change in your time.
I have, for sure.
Tell us about you. Of course, we're learning so much in these interviews, and we talked with Mrs. Keith about when I-75 actually came in, and that was how big that was, how large of a deal that was. I have no recollection of that. I was born in '65, and that was when I was an infant, or a toddler, when that was taking shape. My father helped design some of it, and he also helped design some of what we now call New 80, but it's not new anymore, you know, the road to Somerset there. But some of the changes that you've seen.
Oh my, well, we've seen the shopping centers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have any of those when I worked at the drugstore.
Right.
We started with Carnaby Square. Then it expanded on out to the Walmart thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the town has grown tremendously.
Mm-hmm. And even transportation modes and things like that, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, town was a bustling place. Downtown London was a very bustling place.
Oh, for sure it was, for sure.
And of course, they're reviving that now, you know. And I think sometimes things make a circle.
Yeah.
Don't they?
They do. They do. Yeah, we had about 37 businesses, I'd say, in downtown London then, active business.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very good.
And and times are still good.
They are.
Times just change.
They have changed so much.
Yeah. So I don't see you, though, as being the type to ever really slow down. You said you wouldn't still be working, but...
Well, as long as my health holds, you know.
Yeah, well, you look healthy as can be.
You never know.
Well, you don't. None of us do.
No, we don't.
We have no promises.
No.
But you know, one of the keys, I think, you love your work.
I do.
And even more important than that, you love people.
I do, and I respect the man I work for very much.
Yeah. So you have almost a daily conversation with, and he's
do.
one of the, I don't know his accolades and things like that, but top businessmen in not only the state, but the region and the United States. You know, he's got a big footprint.
He sure does. He really does.
And to know he places that much trust in you, that's very special.
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate it.
So advertising sales, when you started, folks had 2, 3, maybe 4 options if they wanted to market a product. Mm-hmm. Okay? They had radio, obviously. They had newspaper. They had television. And billboards were starting to come into play at that time as well. But certainly not as prominent as they are now.
No.
But we didn't have this little thing called the internet at that time.
That's true. That's true.
So the landscape has changed, and now I guess it's tougher. Well, I know it is, but to get those ad dollars and those, every business has a certain budget, you know. And I made most of my living in radio, so I believe in it very much as an entity to help market a product, you know. But is it tougher now? I'm sure it is.
It is, because like you said, the internet has made a big difference.
But you know, you build those relationships and you build trust with those people.
That's all you've got. That's all you've got to sell.
And you know, here's the key, I think, to being a salesperson and a long-time salesperson like yourself. Be someone that they like to see come in the door.
That's true.
And I know they do with you, you know.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you love to talk to people and things like that. But marketing a product now is much different than it was back when you first started.
Much different. Much different.
Yeah. And you know, the real estate market is much different here now too than it was in the 90s.
It is.
Yeah. Well, Francis, I've enjoyed speaking with you very much. We're putting these on record with the Historical Society, and we hope to run into you many more times down the road. You know, you and I have been friends for years.
That's the truth.
Yeah, and I appreciate that friendship and that trust.
Me too.
Yeah, but and not that you're a piece of history or anything, but you know, everybody knows and loves Francis.
That's a good thing to hear.
Well, and it's because you love them back, you know.
That's true.
Yeah. So I appreciate you, Francis.
Thank you, Kip. Thank you very much.
All right.